Filmmaker reveals UFO secret that the skin of craft seems alive like a biological being. Wow, doesn't it remind us of what the ancient Greek epics and Homer's writings told us? For example, the ship of the Argonauts, the Argo, was not only a special craft, interstellar craft, but also that it was able to hear the thoughts of the people, the Argonauts that were in the craft. And by the way, they were not just simple sailors, they were princes and kings. So what is this? The filmmaker is Jeremy Corbell. What are UFOs? The question that's been buzzing for decades, or maybe even since antiquity, might not have a simple explanation. From alien spaceships to interdimensional craft, these mysterious objects are associated with very strange phenomena. There are a number of whistleblowers who have claimed that the U.S. government possesses UFO materials retrieved from crash sites, but the exact number of these materials is not known. UFO filmmaker Jeremy Corbell claims UFOs are real, and we are no closer to understanding what the UFO truly is, who operates them, where they are from, what their intent is, or what they represent to humankind. So when the public in general sees that on the news, it's like, okay, yeah, well, we all kind of thought that because we're seeing them, thanks government, but nothing's really answered. Corbell has discussed various theories surrounding UAPs, UFOs, with Steve O on his podcast. He put forward ideas on what UFOs could manifest, apart from interplanetary spacecraft, terrestrial, non-terrestrial, or interdimensional objects. Corbell introduced a new term to explain UFOs, which is extratemporal. He explained that many scientists working on UFO-related projects believe these craft utilize gravitational propulsion, a technology we have yet to fully understand. Manipulating gravity could distort time and space, suggesting that these crafts might originate from another time, hence the term is extratemporal. Corbell noted that when it comes to duplicating or reverse engineering these non-human technologies, our current understanding of science is not up to that mark. Corbell mentions that one of the significant challenges in understanding UFOs is the limitations of our material science. He explains that attempts to reverse engineering UFO material or craft are hindered because our material science has not advanced enough to replicate these materials accurately. These craft can move, they call it transmedium, they can move from air to water, from space through air without a sonic boom, they can move at speed and into the sea without disturbance, without slowing down. That's transmedium. So the idea of how do they do that with physics, some people say, well, the craft skin, it's like hydrophobic. When you go in, it just slips in, but really what we're seeing is objects that appear to move in ways that our physics understands. We just can't replicate gravitational fields, Corbell says. And Corbell explains that some people think UFOs might be using things like time travel or manipulative gravity to achieve these unusual movements. He mentions the idea that if we can control gravity somehow, they could create a kind of force field around their craft that makes them move in ways that we cannot explain with our current science. He also talks about the way UFOs can move from space into the Earth's atmosphere or even underwater without making a sound or causing disturbances. He suggests that this could be related to their ability to control gravity, allowing them to smoothly transition between different environments. Now, the skin of the UFO is alive, he claims. Steve O expresses his view that the distinction between craft and biologicals in the UFO phenomenon is not entirely clear to him. He suggests that it might be more accurate to consider that the boundary between what is traditionally thought of as a craft and a biological entity is blurry. He implies that the craft themselves might have some form of biological elements. Corbell agrees that his perspective and mentions that many military personnel who have had close encounters with UFOs often report a strange characteristic about the craft's skin, quote unquote, According to these reports, the craft's exterior appears to exhibit signs of intelligence and liveliness. Corbell notes that this observation is puzzling, especially to engineers who are accustomed to thinking of machines as non-biological entities. Corbell further explores the idea that these UFOs may be so integrated with biological elements that they could be considered a form of biology as we understand it, even though they are still functional craft capable of carrying things. Some of these UFOs appear to be piloted by what Corbell refers to as artificial intelligence, essentially acting like drones. Others seem to carry occupants, which they refer to as biologicals or biological entities. However, they entertain the idea that even these occupants could be some form of cybernetic organisms with synthetic flesh, essentially functioning as autonomous AI beings. Israeli psychic Uri Geller, who is often misjudged on social media for his bizarre posts, was a part of the CIA secret programs where his abilities were used in the area of mind projection and possibly for national security purposes. A declassified CIA document revealed information about the Project Stargate that was focused on remote viewing. He played an important role in the CIA investigation into ESP and psychokinesis. In one experiment for the CIA, Geller was isolated in a room to draw the same picture that had been drawn by another person in another room. He drew a picture of a square with diagonals. In 2017, the CIA released some 12 million pages of records revealing details about Project Stargate. One of Geller's least known claims is about working with NASA. He got acquainted with Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell, and later the two became friends. He was then asked by Mitchell to meet a legendary German-born American aerospace engineer, Wernher von Braun. Geller said Kennedy argued to bring him to the U.S. so that they could use his mind, along with his brother-in-law, Shippy Strang. Geller visited NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland, and while being there, Geller gave his secret spy camera to Strang, which he used later to take photographs of Geller, Mitchell, von Braun, and more. Geller claimed that he could not believe his eyes, as he was shown extraterrestrial evidence at the Goddard Space Flight Center. During their meeting, von Braun doubted Geller. He said he heard about my powers and told me that if he took his wedding ring off his finger and put it in the palm of his hand, and I'd be able to bend it while it's there, he would believe me, Geller recounted. And I did, completely, he said. After that, Geller was shown a piece of metal at von Braun's office. It was metallic, smooth, pearl-like, with a rainbow reflective skin. When I held it, I sensed vibrations. I felt like it was breathing, as if it was alive. Von Braun said I was right and that it was from a crashed UFO, he explained. He never found out where this metal had come from. UFOs, UAPs are not just nuts and bolts craft, Geller posts on X, formerly Twitter. With Kurt Jaimungal on his series of Everything podcasts in 2021, former ATIP head Louis Elizondo carefully hinted that potentially the U.S. government had acquired otherworldly biological samples. He also suggested that the government has images of UAPs that appear to show beings inside them. Have there potentially been biological samples recovered? Kurt asked, and Elizondo replied, yes. I'm not going to expound on that, and be careful when I say that. I'm being purposely very open and vague at the same time, right? What does that mean? Well, it means what it means, he said. And besides, when asked if there are photos that show occupants inside the craft, Elizondo said, there are some very compelling photos out there that seem to show something inside, some sort of occupant, and I'll leave it at that because it gets really murky much beyond that. And there's a lot that can be speculated, and so I try to avoid speculation as much as possible. But yes, I've spoken to enough people with first-hand knowledge that not only report the crafts that we know exist, but potentially some sort of intelligence inside these vehicles, he said. Why isn't this topic being discussed by everyone on the planet? Is it feasible that the majority of people are disregarding this news even if they are aware of it? At what point does the truth and this mind-boggling consequence become too conspicuous to overlook? Former intelligence officer David Grush also testified in July 2023 UAP hearings that the U.S. has recovered non-human biologics from alleged crash sites, which further bolster Corbell and Geller's claims that the craft's skin or its occupants exhibit signs of intelligence and liveliness. And this is on Hows and Whys by Vicky Verma. Please leave your comments about this. Thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.